Yes, sir.
Over the years, who have been some of the clarinetists, either orchestral or solo, that have influenced you, or you've enjoyed listening to, or you've drawn inspiration from?
Well, of course, years ago when I was a kid, there were very few clarinet recordings. The only one recording was Reginald Kell, and he made a couple of landmark recordings, one of which was the Brahms Quintet, which he made in 1937 with the Bush Quartet in London, which to me is probably one of the greatest chamber music recordings I ever heard, because it was so free and so imaginative. There were 12 different tempos in the first movement alone. It was exciting. It was beautiful. It was, I would say, that was a big influence on me, that kind of playing. Others, of course, when recordings started to come in from Europe, you heard people like Leopold Vlach in Vienna, and of course, one heard Thurston, Frederick Thurston in England. In the U.S., there were, of course, the players, the big players of the time. You know who they were. And it was a different. There were national schools. For instance, Bellison in New York. I mean, I didn't really know Bellison, but he played a German system clarinet. And he had a reed maker in Europe that sent him reeds for that Erle clarinet he had, and it was a different kind of playing. One who played the French clarinet, French system, couldn't relate to that kind of playing. You could relate to the fact that he played a very long phrase, and his notes had a nice quality, but you couldn't sound that way, no matter what you did. So your influences were very different along the way. I had contemporaries that were good players. When I think of Buddy Wright or Bob Marcellus, who were contemporaries of mine, but they were more Europeans started to come into the mix that you heard on recordings. But today you can hear everybody everywhere. But not when I was a kid. It was very few clarinet influences. Yes, in swing music, Artie Shaw, Benny Goodman, they were certainly an influence because they were unique. And looking back on it, I realized why they're still evergreen, because you know who they are when they play, and you could hear the soulfulness in somebody like an Artie Shaw. Mm-hmm. He doesn't have to play a Krebs study in perfect metronomic tempo to do something, Looks like we're running out of steam. Yes, sir.
I wonder if you have anything to say about the audience's part in the performance.
Well, the audience is a very important partner. You play better, actually, when you have a good audience, with one that really responds, and you sense their energy, their chemistry. That's what we play for as an audience, and I think the good audience goes away with something to remember, and that's all you can hope for in a live performance, that it's memorable. I remember performances because they were stuck out in my mind. Like one was the premiere of the Shostakovich Violin Concerto in 1957, I guess, 56 or 57, with David Oistrakh and Metropolis conducting. When he came out, sort of a stocky man, flat-footed, he played that first note. I mean, I never heard a sound like that in my life. I mean, it was like unreal. And that the first of those 4 performances was the recording that's still around, a live recording, perfect, of that Shostakovich Violin Concerto. So there's things like that you remember. I got a big memory bank full of stuff. Somebody in the back. Yeah.
know you played as a soloist dozens of times with the orchestra, and I was wondering if there was a piece you commissioned or a performance that sticks out to you from your career.
Well, I was very lucky to have a couple of pieces. Bill Bolcom's concerto in the early 90s was a fun piece to play. It had a rag tango and a drunken waltz in the finale, and it had a tuba solo opening up the slow movement, and it was sort of like swing band-like in the first movement, very accessible. That was a piece that was commissioned for me. And of course the John Corigliano concerto, which I did with Bernstein, was a sort of a monumental time in my life, and I got to play it with a lot of orchestras around the world, and then we recorded it 3 years after the 5 premiere performances. I recorded it with Zubin, with Mehta and the Philharmonic in the 80s, and that was, I would say, a very exciting time for me. I played one performance. I played it was a single performance with Boulez of the Domains, his Domains. He conducted it, and we did it with the Brooklyn Philharmonic at the Academy of Music in Brooklyn. That was exciting to do, and I would say I did a premiere in 2009. Was it in 09 or 08, Carter? Yeah, 2 years ago. There was Elliott Carter. They were honoring him all over his 100th birthday, and he wrote a few of us played this concert, Day of Carter. He wrote a new piece to be played for his 100th birthday. It was for clarinet and soprano, just two of us. Lucy Shelton was a soprano. She's a wonderful singer in contemporary music. And it was based on some poetry by somebody I never heard of. But I'll tell you, the name of the poet was Zukovsky, but I don't know if it was related to Michelle or not. I doubt it. But unless she is a relative there. Anyway, this piece was, we played it for Carter, in his studio, and he came to the performance. It was in Lincoln Center in the Rose building, the Rose studio, Rose Penthouse they call it. And I also did on that program the quintet, the clarinet and string quartet of Carter, a real nightmare piece. But the Juilliard Quartet and Charlie Neidig premiered it the year before, 6 months before, and Charlie told me they had 40 rehearsals. we did it in 3, but it's because but that concert was exciting to do. I did in the season before that there was a day of burial. It sounds like House of Frankenstein. The day of burial, all the sequences were played for every instrument. The concert was over 4 hours and 20 minutes, and that was exciting to do. Did that at the Rose Theater in where the Wynton Marsalis band plays. A very fine hall. Columbus Circle. So I would say that playing that new piece for his first piece written for his 100th birthday, Carter's, it was exciting to do. And I played, according to the archives, a lot of concerto performances, and on many tours. I did 60 Copelands over the years. I did a lot of everything else. One unusual season was when I was the first soloist of a season. It was when Boulez was the music director, and we did the Mozart concerto for the opening concerts the week, which was he was great. It's amazing. One thinks of him only in the modern world, but he's a polished, finished musician. He does Mahler beautifully, Wagner. So anyway, we did Mozart, which I thought was unusual to do with him, and a lot of, like I said, I've been lucky to have made a couple of recordings of works with them over the years. WC Rhapsody, Nielsen Concerto. Yeah, well, I mean, I've made chamber music recordings. She reminded me that the Bartok contrasts a long, long time ago, which was interesting. It was done in the days of before digital, and there was a single microphone hanging over the three of us. It was Robert Mann, the first violinist of the Juilliard Quartet, and Leonard Hambro, who was a Philharmonic official pianist, and the engineer was Peter Bartok, the son of Bela, who had a company called Bartok Records, and he's still around. He lives in Florida, in Homosassa, Florida, on the West Coast, and I got a royalty check from him last year. It was a check for $7.21, and I saw him in New York because he came when they did the new edition of The Wooden Prince. Philharmonic did it. He came with the new score, and he said, "Did you get the check?" I said, "Yes." He says, "That's for 3 years." He says, "I don't send a check if it's under $5. I recorded that in 1954, so it made a few royalties over the time, but it was that, and I did, like I said, Debussy Rhapsody early on with Bernstein recorded, Nielsen Concerto, which was we played it for a week and then recorded it. It was a one-take recording. Of course, I didn't think they wasted time spending money on clarinet players at Columbia Records, but lucky, we were very lucky. I think they had to make one patch where the strings come in one place in a tutti, where there was some pizzicati that had to be cleaned up. But other than that, the cadenzas, everything was one take. I was very lucky because I played it four times the week or so before the recording, and then write it done on the stage in the same venue. And then then of course the Cordiano live recording, and the final recording of Leonard Bernstein with the New York Philharmonic. I was his last soloist. He came for 2 weeks in October of 1989, and he did a week of Tchaikovsky and a week of Copland. I did the concerto, and we recorded that. So it was I got a nomination, a Grammy nomination for that, as I did for the Cordiano 10 years before. Every 10 years I get a nomination. and I saw Bernstein a month after that time in New York, because I was part of the international orchestra that went to Berlin for the Freedom concerts from East Berlin, where he changed the word in the Ode to Joy from Freude to Freiheit, changed it to freedom from joy. And he had an international orchestra, players from various orchestras of the world joined for that. There was a concert in West Berlin on the 23rd of December, and then on the 25th, the one that was broadcast, televised all over the world at 11 a.m. local time. And that was the last time I saw him, because he died in the summer, but he never came back to the Philharmonic after that. So it was a very moving time for me. I've had a lot of moments like that. Like I said, I have a full memory bank. It's been an interesting run. I'll say that. I feel very lucky. Are we okay? Are we cool?